And we are live once again. Hello and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to In Your Face. And this time on In Your Face, I'm in the hot seat. Oh boy. Okay. And what I mean by that, this is a Q&A. So anybody who logs on has any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. However, if anybody, if and I got a funny feeling I might get a smart aleck or two. If I do, kind of a heads up. I probably will. You know, if you come on here being a smart aleck, I'll make fun of you. That's just how it's going to be. All right. Real quick, while I'm waiting for people to kind of, jump into the live stream, start watching some stuff, whatever the case may be. First and foremost, let's start off with some questions that have kind of come up on Facebook, or people that have come up and asked me questions, that sort of thing. So, we're going to start with that. And hopefully, as people kind of, start coming in, we're basically going to go from there. And we'll go as long as people are asking questions, as long as we can kind of keep it going. I don't want to bore everybody to tears. If no one comes on, then we'll just answer the questions from Facebook, or the ones that have asked me in person, and we'll just kind of, whatever. It's hard to say how my live streams go. Sometimes they go really good. Sometimes they go really bad. Some people will watch the after. They'll watch it in playback later. So we're hoping it goes good. All right. First and foremost. Right now, this question kind of came on the heels of. I want to thank Bert. He's kind of put me in a limelight spot. He's kind of started this movement where he's wanting to get me named the most romantic husband in St. Francis County, which is kind of cool. I mean, that's kind of a big burden to carry on the shoulders, but hey, uh, I got broad shoulders for a guy my size. Why not? That sort of thing. So we're gonna let's start off with the question that kind of came on the heels of that. It seems like the romance stuff is really starting to take off, even more so than the hot rod stuff. Um, the question came, Prince Magnum, if you were a single man, what kind of what's your ideal woman? If you were a single man, and I want to do this question justice, because the what I might consider, to me there's really, and please excuse me how I put this, but in this world, and in, if you will, for me, Prince Magnum, if I was a single man, I'm not, but if I was single, there's really only two types of women in the world for me. Okay. There's the woman that I just take to my bedroom, and then there's the type of woman that I take to meet my family, that I want around my kids and things like that. Really, that's it. I mean, um, y'all have to understand, okay? Um, and I got asked this question when I was 24. What's the perfect woman? And it's all based on personality. Uh, Ladies, I'm going to just say it like this because I know some ladies really want to hear this one. I've met some women that when I first looked at them, they were drop dead gorgeous, but the moment they started talking, they got ugly in a real hurry. But then I've met some women that most guys wouldn't even give a second glance at, but the moment they started talking, they were the most beautiful women I had ever met. I mean, and I know some of you are saying, well, I've seen Princess Faye, well, yeah, I mean, you know, uh, yeah, she's an absolutely beautiful woman, no question about it. But the thing of it is that, I mean, I didn't marry her just because she was physically beautiful. I married her because, she's more than that. Okay. The outside's only the cover of the book. How many times you always heard, can't judge a book by its cover. I mean, that's just how it is. And, I'd like to, I mean, yeah, I mean, I still, I still Google over, even as a married man, I'll openly admit every once in a while, I still fawn over an attractive woman, but at day's end, I mean, you know, Yeah, I've got Princess Faye, but if I was single, I mean, that's how it would be. I mean, you know, that's just how it is. I mean, I know what I'm trying to say. If I was single, I'm not, but if I was, um, that, you know, the best way I could really say it is, I mean, you know, to me, long term is better than, the short term. Got to think down the road, Um, you know, it, that's the best way I could put it. So that kind, I hope that answers that question. Um, to me, the most beautiful women is a good solid personality. They got a sense of humor. Are they intelligent? Can I carry a conversation with them? Um, when they smile, do their eyes light up a certain way? You can see into the soul. Are they genuine? You know, uh, you know, can you see right through their BS? If they're full of BS, if they're, if they're full of BS, you don't want to. That's not the one you want to be with. And that's just the way it is. Another question that came up, and I want to thank Becky for this question. Uh, you know, the marriage partnership. She wanted my viewpoint on it, and she kind of, she basically threw one at me, and we were talking. And for those who do not know, Becky is a friend of mine. We go back. I was like 6 years old when I first met her, and we've been friends ever since. She kind of brought up, the whole. She thinks that women should also, go the extra distance. And one of the things that I brought up is if you got a woman with a good, solid personality, any man that goes, that tries to keep the romance alive and well in the relationship, if he picked a good wife, he's got nothing to worry about. She'll do everything in her power to go the extra mile. And unfortunately, that's it. Most people tend to forget that. I mean, there's a lot of that. Well, if they love me, that no, go the extra mile. They'll if they're real about it, they'll meet you all the way. That's just kind of how it is. I mean, um, husbands, how many times do you hear me say this on the Prince Magnum channel? If she's worth it, you'll do it. Well, that's true. I mean, and that's just one of those things. That kind of, I hope that answers your question, Becky. That was a good question. That was a real good question. Um, Another question that has come up, kind of popped up on the Prince Magnum. Are you, actually, this one came in person. Are you going to do a V8 swap to Project Spirit? And the answer is no, we are not going to do a V8 swap to Project Spirit. I put a lot of people, you tell them, check out this, check out that, and they don't. It's one of those things that uh, a lot of people just don't. They just don't do it. They just don't do it. Um, and I had put up you know, uh, a survey on my Patreon account. Should we do an inline? Should we rebuild the old inline six, or should we do a V8 swap? No one answered. So it's like, well, I sat down and kind of made that decision myself. And the thought process is that yes, I could do the V8 swap. I mean, 302s, they're everywhere. You could even turn a 302 into something kind of like a 289, which to me is more the quintessential, hot rodding engine. It sounds like Galaxy's into something again. That's what that crash was a moment ago. Um, so we could do the quintessential, and we could even do a 351 Windsor. Some people have even managed to cram like a 351 Cleveland and a 351 modified into Mavericks. But I'll be honest with you, most everybody, when they get a Maverick or any other old car, one of the first things they do is they yank the inline. And to me, I mean, if it was working, why did you pull it? And I mean, there was a time in this country where, yes, you could get a V8, but the inlines were the better route because V8 technology was still in its infancy. The inline six was proven technology. So for most people, it was easier to do an inline six than it was a V8, and that was at a time when V8 you could get a V8. Um, Not to say that there's anything wrong with a V8, but everybody does it, and I mean, there's been a part of me for years after driving. For those who don't know, there was a time I actually worked in a tree trimming service back when I was like 19, and it was short lived. Um, because that's just not the work for me. Climbing trees, nothing against it. It's not for me. Um, but after driving around the trucks that they had at that time, they drove inline sixes with 4 and 5 speed manual transmissions, and they were good trucks. I mean, despite the fact that most of the guys who worked for that company just flat abused those trucks. So at day's end, those trucks were still running, even though they were abused and abused hard. To my knowledge, these when the trucks were no longer able to be repaired, they oftentimes pulled the engines as is and put them in a wood chipper. So they work. The Ford inlines worked, and after seeing that, amazingly enough, um, there was a part of me that always kind of wanted to do a Ford inline, and this is my opportunity. So why am I going to pass up on an opportunity that I've kind of always wanted to do? I mean, I've done small block Chevys, and I love small block Chevys. I love small block Chevys. I mean, I cut my teeth in hot rodding on small block Chevys. Um, and I've kind of tinkered around with a Ford 302 back when in my 20s, when I had a Mercury Grand Marquis. Good car, by the way. It was a really good car, and it was an '83, fuel injected, just like what was in the Mustangs that year, and it was a good, solid runner, and I did enjoy it. But honestly, I mean, again, everybody's doing. That's one of the first things that everybody does: throw a V8 in them. And I'd just like to do something different. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing something different. If there's one thing that that I try to stress on this channel, and try to stress out in the public, and that I hear a lot of you in the Maverick Nation repeatedly stress yourselves: walk to the beat of your own drum. So that's what we're going to do here on the channel. We're going to walk to the beat of our own drum. We're going to do this in line. Again, when we go to do that inline, I know that I'm going to need some time, so Project Spirit won't necessarily come off the road, but we're going to replace it with a different inline six, run that for a little while, and then once her original is all fixed up, ready to rock and roll, we'll swap them around, and then that inline that was in there as a temporary will be set aside in storage for a project later on. I believe that Princess Faye has something in mind for herself down the road. Don't know what's going to happen with Project Lena in that case. She'll probably keep her and then just, want something kind of on the side as, a side project or something. Who knows? Who knows? But something to think about. Again, that's one that has come up regularly, and I want to again stress there's nothing wrong with an inline six. There's nothing wrong with a six cylinder. Um, this country has a fascination with V8s, and we can thank the 1960s for that. And honestly, the 1960s, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of performance, but um, what I want is the performance was there, yes, if you want to go by the numbers. But the problem was is that it wasn't until later we were able to truly capitalize on that performance, and that was long after we started being able to capitalize on performance truly in the '70s into the '80s. Of course, the '90s was better. Early, through the early 2000s, it was phenomenal, and of course now we're starting to go the other way. But that's another subject. Oh, we got our first person. Okay. Remember, this is a Q&A. I'm in the hot seat, okay? So, if you post it, provided it's not, hateful, I will do my best to answer it to the best of my ability. Um, and we're going to go as long as people are coming in, within reason, obviously, because I want to be able to load this as kind of a, so people can watch the playback. Okay, so again, that answers the question with Project Spirit. We are going to rebuild her old inline. Some of the things that we will be doing with that. Bert, you are something else. I don't know who put the. No, I'm not saying that. That's too much. Too much. Man, you are something else. Bert from Bert TV has joined us right now. He's awesome guy. Awesome guy. He's the one who's pushing right now to have me, Prince Magnum, named the most romantic husband in St. Francis County. Thank you very much for. That's a big thing to show. Good thing I got broad shoulders for my size. Again, keep hoping my buddy Charlie, a member of the Maverick Nation and a bird head himself, pops on, because he'll probably give me a real good one to think about too. Oh, you are. Gosh dang it, you. Bert just puts up there, you a sexy man. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. That's probably the best, worst Elvis impression you're going to get out of me. The best I can do, and probably the worst you're going to get. But, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, right? Uh, Next chance we get, I'm going to have to get over there to Bert, to his place. And my favorite Kiss LP. Okay, now that's a good one. My favorite Kiss LP. Gosh, there's so many of them to choose from. But if you really wanted to twist my arm, really twist my arm, I would actually have to say it's the very first album, the album self-titled Kiss, and the reason being is when you take the music from that very first album, and you really even today when you break it out of the box, it's fresh, it's brand new, out of that box, it still sounds like it could keep up with today's music, and it's probably the most purest form of Kiss that you're going to get. I mean, it is the purest form of that band you're going to get. It was cut in 1974, even though I believe Kiss got their start in like 72, 73. The one that's Destroyer. Destroyer's a good one. It's probably my second favorite, and I'll get to that in a second. But the original album, because it's like the purest form of Kiss you're going to get. It's the purest of the pure, and for that reason, I love it the most because it is the first one. It's not the like when you start comparing it to stuff that they do later, but by that time they're going through their changes and doing different things. So that first album is probably, the purest form of the band that you're going to get. Now, Destroyer would be one of my other favorites. I don't know necessarily if it's like a second, well, it'd probably be like my third favorite. And the reason why that particular one is, Destroyer is like a third favorite, as Paul Stanley put it, their backs were against the wall. A lot of people thought that the live album was going to be a lot like a Peter Frampton thing. Peter Frampton, he did his live album. That was it. He was done. Forget it. It was over. And a lot of people thought that was going to be the case with Kiss, and it wasn't. So because of the album Destroyer. So their backs were really against the wall at that time. Now, if you were to ask me, Kiss, a lot of people that were turned on as fans of Kiss in the 1970s. Kiss Alive was what turned them on to Kiss, and for me, the first time I ever really heard Kiss, it was actually their album Love Gun. Was the first time I ever heard Kiss. Now, if you were to twist my arm and ask my second favorite Kiss album, I would have to say. I would have to actually say Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. because you get a really, honestly, and for the record, my favorite time frame for Kiss music, not album wise, but for music overall, would be the 1980s for Kiss. Actually, I take that back. My second favorite album would have to be Revenge by Kiss. The Revenge album would be my second favorite. Just because it's just so hard hitting. And again, that album, you open up the package and the music is still fresh. It can keep up with today's music, but that's the appeal of that band. That's one of the reasons why I love Kiss is just because that they have that ability to, you could break their stuff. You can go back a ways, like to the early 70s or to like the early 90s, actually all the way up to about the mid 90s. And even some of the stuff that they still occasionally put out today, it's still cutting edge. And that's amazing because these guys are quite a bit up there in their years. And I mean, yeah, there's still a lot of controversy that surrounds them. But hey, I'm not in the band, so it's none of my beeswax, okay? Whatever drama goes on within the band or ex-members or whatever, that's between the band and those former members or current members or whatever. That's between them. My only interest is in the music and the occasional inspirational thing that the members will put out. Again, Bert will tell you, he's heard me say this, and it was said on Kiss Alive 3. It doesn't matter where you're born. It doesn't matter where where you've been. It matters where the heart is at, or head, however you want to look at it. It just matters where you stand. And I appreciate Paul Stanley saying that, and thankfully he said it, and it's in Kiss Alive 3, so you can listen to that. I forget exactly where. I haven't listened to the album in a while. Okay, so that answers that question, I think. Okay. Um, Back to the question about Project Spirit. We will be redoing, for those who might ask, Prince Magnum, what are some of the things that you're going to do to that engine? A lot of it's going to be kind of internal. Most, like, are we going to be able to use the original crankshaft? I don't know. If the original crankshaft checks out, we're going to have it mic'd. Basically, they'll run it through the micrometer, and if everything checks out and it can be used, we're going to reuse that original crankshaft. We might turn it down about 10 thousandths, shortening the stroke of that hover crankshaft, and then we'll have the connecting rods resized for that. Obviously, the deck surfaces for the head and the oil pan, that's going to have to be resurfaced, because one of the big problems, if you know anything about American cars from the 1970s, holy cow. Okay, Bert brought up a good point that about him. He was a big Kiss fan in the 70s, but then he turned into a Beatles fan. I'm going to say something right now. If you are a true fan of Kiss, if you're a true fan of Kiss, you also should be a fan of the Beatles, because Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley have openly admitted that they are Beatles fans. While we're on that subject, if you're a fan of the Kiss from the 1970s, you also should be a fan of Led Zeppelin, because even Ace Frehley himself says that some of the stuff that he was, that Led Zeppelin, his guitar style, even though there's some differences, that Jimmy Page was his inspiration. Of course, Jimi Hendrix as well was also an inspiration for Ace Frehley. So just bear that in mind. Also, again, Peter Criss. If you're a big fan, Vinnie Vincent. There's a lot of controversy surrounding Vinnie Vincent and his time in Kiss. And for years, every once in a while, this will pop up on my YouTube feed. You might want to check it out yourself. Vinnie Vincent. For years, Gene Simmons really, just bashed him a good one for years, and then finally, I forget what the quote was. Uh, Vinnie Vincent turned around and said like two whole sentences, and it was like, "Ouch, dude! Ow, ow! That's wow!" That was a big sting, and that one, I mean, it was like bam. He nailed Gene Simmons with it just kind of cut him down with two sentences, and I had never seen that. Oh, yeah, because of the hair. Yeah, don't know if he's a guy or a guy. Vinnie Vincent. Yeah. Um, some guys with long hair. I mean, they unfortunately start looking a little bit more feminine than masculine. But maybe that's it was the 1980s, and I used to hear that big hair bands in the 80s. The metal hair bands. Uh, when they went looking for their costumes, they would go into a department store, go right straight to the women's section. So I mean, but it was the time, it was the time. So it worked out, because Vinnie Vincent was replacing Ace Frehley at that time, and they really had to do that. you, uh, yeah, my long hair, yeah. Which every once in a while, someone will, kind of, come on and why the long hair? Well, why the short hair? Um, it, I'll tell you all a funny story. For years, my mom and I didn't talk, and we started kind of patching up our relationship, and went to see my mom for the first time in like 7 years, and she got some pictures of me and everything, and a friend of hers was over and looking through the pictures, and then she seen me with my long hair, and she looks at my mom and says, "Long hair. Oh, I approve." And my mom looks at her and said, "Were you just checking out my son?" And she's like, "Well," and she's like, "Oh, hell no, you didn't. You were just checking out my son. Oh, you." And it was one of those things. I'm like, I'm sorry, mom. That was and for the record, I'm going to actually say something. That was before I had that one staph infection that left me with a scar over here. And most people don't know that. I mean, ever since that staph infection and how it left me with that scar, I'll be honest with a lot of people. Most people don't know this. I have a hard time looking at myself in the mirror over that. And some people will now say, "Oh, it's not noticed." I notice it, okay, and bothers me a little bit. But that's just it's one of those things. You know, and I'll tell you all a funny story. I was actually sitting in an AA meeting one day, and I was talking about how it upset me, and I said, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear, oh, it's not. I said, I notice it, okay, and I said, it bothers me, and it was actually a gentleman who had a severe accident and messed up like the whole left side of his body. He said, I totally get it. I'm right there with you. And it got me through. It was one of those awesome moments where an AA member got me through the pain. Um, that's the funny thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is, just when, it's like, why am I going through this? And then the next thing you know, someone's coming up to you with the same problem that, you're going through. And somehow them going through the same thing, what you're learning, you're able to pass on. And somehow you're, okay, that's why I'm going through it, because, you understand the pain, where they're coming from. So, one of those God things. And my cigar keeps going out. Okay. Let's see. So far, let's see. Yeah. So you understand exactly where I'm coming from. Uh, two different colored eyes bother him. Actually, let's see. David Bowie, after having an accident, I think it was a car accident. He suffered the same thing, and David Bowie, that it worked out well for him when he did Labyrinth. So ironically, um, it just made the part so much better. Uh, it just he fit the part well. So there you go. I mean, oh, he got hit in school. See, I'd heard a car accident. I don't know. It's one of those things I'll have. Now you're gonna make me look it up, aren't you? So I can be, Uh, I miss David Bowie. Every once in a while, someone will post something about Justin Bieber. How dear God, we'll trade you Justin Bieber if you send us back. I've seen one on David Bowie, and then I seen another one where it was Freddie Mercury of Queen, which ironically enough, it used to be. For a long while, you'd say, you know who Freddie Mercury is, and the kids would go, yeah, I know who Freddie Mercury is. Now, today, I don't know who that is. Who is that? Lead singer of Queen? And then they're like, who's Queen? And you're like, yes, Ziggy Stardust. One of my all-time favorite songs by David Bowie would have to be um, actually it'd be Space Oddity. Yeah, one of my all-time favorites. And for the record, if you ever hear that song come on and no one's singing, yeah, you don't need them around. They're too negative for you. No one's singing that song with you. They're negative people. Mm, yeah, that's just my viewpoint. Anyhow, um, okay, let's get caught up on current events while we're waiting for the next question. Uh, oh, Wi-Fi's acting up. Okay, okay. So, all right. Thank you for joining. Um, okay, anybody else joins? I think we're going to go ahead and start winding it down. But I think I answered all the questions I can answer right now live, because we had a few of them kind of come up. Real quick, let's get caught up on current events. Project Spirit is still in the shop. She should be home, hopefully Friday or Saturday, depending on how things go. Um, uh, Her clutch, there's like this little pin almost. It has like a ball on the end of it that hooks into the Z-bar clutch linkage. That broke, which to my knowledge is a common problem with Fords from back in the day. Uh, I don't know exactly why. Probably something to do with the way they're made. But Project Spirit, hers did break. And when it broke, I was actually getting ready to shift out at first and hit second. So I pushed in the clutch and smack hit the floor. Sucked. So I had to limp her over, had to have her towed. And from here, what will happen is that part will be coming in from Eckler's, a company called Eckler's. They have a subsidiary company called Dearborn Classics, which deals in your 60s to like real early 70s Fords. They really don't have anything for Mavericks, but they do have stuff for the Ford Falcon, which a lot of that will interchange. You just got to know how to kind of place that. So it's for 70 Ford Falcon, ironically enough. So that will be in Friday through FedEx from Eckler's, which I believe, if I remember correctly, they're out there on the East Coast. So do take a look at their website if you're rebuilding a classic Ford, or for that matter, anything classic like that. They've got a lot of stuff for the old cars, specifically for like Camaros, Firebirds, stuff like that. They've got all that stuff, including I know I've seen stuff for Ford Galaxies, and I love the Ford Galaxy. Awesome looking car. Ford Fairlane. Yeah, I'm not a diehard Ford fan, but I'm more of a GM kind of guy, and they got tons of stuff for GMs, obviously. You name it, they pretty well got it. So do definitely check out their website. Also, kind of a heads up, there will be some confusion because it did kind of confuse me a little bit. They are closed on Sundays, but be sure to check double check your listings if you go to call for any information, just kind of double check your listings on that. Also, if you like the hat that I'm wearing, okay, the hat that I'm wearing, be sure to hang on here. I've got the card right here. I'll read them. To check out, the airbrushing Mike, who's out of Park Hills, Missouri. Phone number 573 Be sure to check out, if you want to order a hat, maybe like mine, or you got something in mind, want airbrushing done, be sure to check out airbrushing Mike, who's out of Park Hills, Missouri. Be sure to check him out. He's the one who definitely hooked me up with this awesome looking Punisher hat. And for those who do not know, the Punisher is one of my all-time favorite comic book characters because I can actually relate. Even though my family wasn't, my kids and wife weren't killed, the state of Missouri did take them away, and I have a beef with them. So we will not stop until we're up to the elbow in their ass, making sure that they pay for their crimes. But that is another subject for another time. All right. Also, I want to thank everybody who gave me questions for this live stream. Bert of Bert TV, he came on, lots of awesome questions. I also want to thank him for that movement because I'll tell you what, it's not every day, someone wants to do that. Also, if you see me out in the public, don't be afraid to come up. You can. I've gotten to where now I'm actually starting to carry a pen. A few people have started wanting to come up and ask me for autographs and to get pictures with me. By all means, feel free to do that. Even if I'm not wearing the shades, get up there, ask. You get your picture with me. I don't care if I've got 20 subscribers all the way up to, if it's even if I'm all the way up to like millions of subscribers. I want people to always feel that they can come up when I'm out in the public and talk to me, hang out, whatever, because that's the way it should be. If you see me out with Project Spirit, feel free to come up. You're welcome to have a look around the girl, the old girl. I mean, if I didn't want her to get noticed, I would keep her at home. That's the way it is. And she's a daily driven car, so she's out there every day. Feel free to get your pictures. Shoot, if you catch me with the car and I'll even hold the camera for you. Okay. It's just like that. That's the way it is. So again, feel free. Hopefully I'm not going to make this concrete as I'm making it, doing this stream. It's Wednesday. Hopefully tomorrow I will be at the Bonne Terre City Library, or Bonne Terre Memorial Library. There's a class with kids and that sort of thing. Hopefully I'll be able to put on a magic show. Depending on how things look tomorrow, I have no idea at this point. But if all goes well, I will be there with a magic kit. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be great. And I can hopefully load some videos. We don't keep the internet here. Long story behind that. Hey, I work for a living, okay? I got to do what I got to do. And so that covers that. If all goes well with Project Spirit, I will be at Laz's Bar and Grill Friday night. I will be on stage singing karaoke as usual, showing my support for DJ Party Pro. Because those guys are awesome, especially my good buddy DJ Brian. So if all goes well, I'll try to keep that updated on my Twitter account and on Facebook. So anybody who wants to come out, hang out with me, watch me on stage sing. Sometimes I'm really good. Sometimes I'm not so good. Sometimes I just try out songs, see what happens, and sometimes I'm not that great. I admit it, sometimes I suck, this way it is. But if I'm there, again, get your pictures, hang out with me. I won't be drinking, but I'll be, sipping on soda. Nothing wrong with that. But I will be out there also to show my support for Laz's Bar and Grill because I'll tell y'all right now, hands down, bar none. Despite the fact that it is a bar, they do serve alcohol. They don't question if I come in and want to drink soda. They don't care. They don't care. I can go there. The bartenders know, and I can pretty well guarantee if I did go up there and ask for alcohol, they would probably not serve it to me. So again, not that I want to drink, but people going out of their way to make sure I don't. Good people all around me. It's hard. It's hard to fail at sobriety when you got people wanting to support you. Even a bartender. It's hard. Um, also, if all goes well, the 4th of July, I'm hoping to be in Jackson, Missouri at a car show down there with Project Spirit and Project Lena. We will be showing them. Try to get out there. We're going to try to get out there as early as possible. Don't quote me on that. Anything can happen between now and then. And because the 4th of July falls on a Wednesday, there's no guarantee that I can get the day off. It is a holiday, and it is and Wednesdays at my job are pretty hectic and stressful. Gosh, I think that pretty well covers all the current events. Hopefully tomorrow, Bonter City Library. I'll try to keep y'all posted, and of course, hopefully Friday at Lazarus Bar and Grill. Nothing exciting this Saturday. I was going to do a car show, but I haven't got the time. Okay. Uh, I might try to even. I might see if I can sneak out there to Farm Two and hang out with the old timers there uh, from the Foothills Car Club. I do. Um, they're not quite the same anymore, but they're still good guys. I mean, they're really nice guys. They really are good people. And hanging out with the old hot rodders is still a lot of fun. Um, I know my buddy, the Cadillac Kid. He's like, I want to get out of there. No, they got some really cool stories. Um, you corner them on it, and they'll tell you about the old days, and you just be amazed how they're still alive after doing some of the stuff they do. So bear that in mind, my good buddy. And want to get while we're on that subject, I want to also give a special shout out to the Cadillac Kid and to BST4 channel. Again, if you've never checked out their channels, please do so. Also, check out my boys, on Facebook, DJ Party Pro. They always post some really awesome stuff from where they did different shows and things like that. Check them out on Facebook and follow them. Also, be sure to check out Lazarus Bar and Grill in Leadington on Facebook. They're always doing something. They try to do something every day of the week except on Mondays because they're closed. And I don't think they're even open on Sundays. Don't quote me on all that. I know they're not open on Sundays. I think they're open the rest of the time. But be sure to check them out on Facebook as well. Also, check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Twitter. And check out my Patreon account. If you can donate, always a plus. Also, as usual, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and be sure to hit that bell icon and smash all of them as hard as you can. That way, YouTube knows, hey, the Prince Magnum channel is really awesome. Also, if you have any positive feedback, be sure to leave it in the box below. And we'll try to do this again at a later date. So you might want to leave a question down there for me. Okay. Leave me a good question. Also, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is. Just do something with yourself. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet and do something special for them today. Believe you. There we go.